Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr., and my co-hosts again are, out on strike, uh, complaining about pay raise and being overpaid for and underworked, something to that effect. But anyway, we're here, and we are going to get through this episode. Let me just say that a happy new year. And I hope you had a good holiday season. I certainly did because, the Lord allowed me to get back up and try again today. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about single moms, single mothers, single black mothers, and I think that that's our next phase in our conversation on fatherlessness in the black community here in the U.S. We've talked about many different topics over the years, focused or at least coming back to uh, the conversation on black fathers, the absence of black fathers in the household. And so, what we need to do is turn our attention for at least a minute, maybe the next few weeks, on what's happening with the single mothers. How do we get to where we're at? It's not just a missing father thing, but it's I would imagine a stressed out mother thing, and we as a community continue to tolerate this and encourage it. Well, it tolerating meaning that we don't hold. Uh, Listen, people do what they do, and they will keep doing what they do if there are no consequences. When they find consequences that are untenable, they stop doing that and they do something else. On the other hand, you know, we're not tolerating it. We're tolerating it, and it's not a good thing because again, as I always say, this is not life is not about you and me. Life is about the others, the ones to come. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I have a short video. It's about 10 minutes. I'm not going to run the whole video in its entirety, just to get the conversation going. But this time I'm going to, run about 3 minutes of it and then, come back and then come back and finally give some facts so you have some perspective on the problem that we face in our community, in our households. Hey, Kimmy, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm glad you could make it. I'm trying to find my hold on. Okay. Okay. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Did you have a good New Year?
I did. I did. It was nice. It was nice and quiet. Yep.
Okay. Good birthday?
Yep, I did. I took myself out to have some good old Longhorn Steakhouse. So I enjoyed that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think Will is going to make it right now, but
Okay.
he may pop in. That's okay. We want to talk this week about single mothers. Okay. I know you might know something about that, so
Oh yeah.
I'm glad I'm glad you bring in your expertise. Uh, I have a video. It's about 10 minutes, but I'm only going to run first 3 minutes, and then we'll talk about what we've seen. So you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Another day, another story. Single black mother narrative. Are you going to be a single mom? I was about 4 months pregnant when my goddaughter asked me this question as we walked through the park. I appreciated that she shared one of the many thoughts likely floating around her bright, curious mind. It was a reasonable inquiry reflecting a socially constructed story that she was trying to understand. My reply: I am not going to be a single mom. I am going to be an unmarried mom. That simple question required me to make a distinction not always made. I now feel that the lack of such a distinction is a disservice to everyone affected by it, including this young black girl who I affirm will grow into a woman with the power to direct the narrative for her future family. Words are the narrative. There are two major issues with the term single mom. First, the single in the description too often leads our society to make huge assumptions about how parenting is or is not occurring. The census defines a single parent as one who is not currently living with a spouse, divorced, widowed, or never married. While most single-parent households are led by women, the term single mom can create political and economic categories that disregard the complexity of relationships that fall between the socially constructed endpoints of single versus married. While single may better, though not always accurately, suit efforts to describe an unmarried woman, it is misleading as a term for parenting. In fact, as related to the act of actually parenting, what is the opposite of single? If you are not single parenting, what are you doing? Surely it isn't married parenting, as this term is in no way related to a parenting behavior. On the contrary, married women sometimes lament feeling like they are parenting alone. Hence, single as a way of understanding parenting dynamics tells us very little. Unfortunately, there is limited language regularly used in the larger political and social culture to explain ways in which households are constructed and how unmarried parenting is occurring, particularly related to Black parents. This is evidenced by a recent Pew Research Center report that categorized unmarried parents according to 1. Cohabitating dads, 2. Cohabitating moms, 3. Solo moms, and 4. Solo dads. In this instance, solo expands the notion of single to more broadly reference parents raising a child with no support, parent or partner, in the home, versus the census's definition referencing a spousal arrangement. The use of only these types of categories, single and solo, in nationally disseminated, family-focused research can limit a comprehensive understanding of the complex ways in which Black, unmarried parents are raising children. Without intervention, these words, ideas and messages can shape the way that women and men see themselves, their families, their communities and possibly their futures.
Right there. I want to stop. Any thoughts?
Oh, I just realized I was on mute. I'm sorry. I just realized that it's spot on. A lot of times, it just doesn't work out the way that you intended for it to or expected it to. And single mothers do carry a heavier burden when they have to do it on their own, and a lot of people can even identify with being married and also single parenting because maybe the spouse is not actively involved or anything like that. So I can identify definitely with being a single mother, and how hard it can be. I mean, is it impossible to do? No, but is it challenging at times? For sure. For sure.
Well, the article has started out talking about the definition of single mother, and then it goes on to talk about the parenting aspect of it, and it starts to talk about the family aspect of it. And I guess what's confusing me is that it's becoming a trend in our communities where it's an acceptable behavior. And I started to talk about this before you came in. Um, as long as we continue to accept that behavior, we're going to get that behavior.
Yeah.
Until people start to see there are consequences, uh, severe consequences to that effect, then they will start changing the behavior. I think the point is, and this is something on both sides of the ledger. It's not just the single mother issue and the definition of single mother. It's also back again to the father of the child. You know, yes, I understand fornication. That kind of thing. There's a whole different conversation. The childbirth is the result of that activity if it's not handled, you know, properly. And that's something that falls on both sides again of the ledger, for the man and for the woman. It might sound kind of selfish of me to say that the protection issue is something that really burden falls on the woman. But the reality is that if not for the woman, there would be no baby.
Right. Right.
And then we come back to the conversation on when the woman meets a man, meets a woman, or whatever, and then they start a relationship that includes intimacy. Um, we typically do not know enough about the person before that happens. And, yeah, that's a big challenge. Well, how long do I wait before, how much time do I put in to get to know this guy before the hormones are, whatever,
Raging.
or raging or whatever. But again, and so that forces us back to the conversation on protection. And then again, to me, it forces it back finally to the woman. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that there should be conversation with daughters, young women, on how important that part of the life situation is, that you protect yourself. Men will lie.
Yeah.
God knows we will lie. And it's not that we planned it most of the time, you know. And so, with that said, the onus, from a father's perspective, the onus is to assure myself, get some level of comfort that my daughter understands that there's the risk, there's the problem, And we could all walk around with this attitude, well, I'm all this and I'm all that, and I know what I'm doing. I know you don't know what you're doing. Because if you knew what you were doing, you already know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work out for anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, yeah, some people do get the point and they figure it out. Sometimes it's after, you had a child. You say, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again because, I could have done better and I will do better. Still, we come back to the problem that we have in the community is that without knowing or getting a good understanding of the person that you're being intimate with, will lie. What do I do to avoid that? And we can have that conversation and all of that. But the thing with that, it takes time.
Yep.
It takes time. And sometimes we don't realize our own value. And I'm talking from the male and the female perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's probably difficult to be, alone for a period of time. I understand that. I personally have not had that problem. Okay. But I could certainly understand it. I got married
Yeah.
at a young age. You got to go. You got
Mhm.
to go. Let me
I
know.
do. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm at work. I have to run now. I'm sorry. Life of a single mother. Gotta work. Gotta juggle it all. So, but
Okay.
it was a blessing being here. Thank you for having me. And to all those single mothers that are listening, may God give you the strength. Until He brings you your Boaz. Just hang tight and hang in there. They're on the way, right? Lord's willing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
Okay.
right. Love you. God
Love
bless.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Okay. So we'll continue. Let me go to the next part. I think I've cut this into 3 sections, so that's going to be easy to work with. Here we go.
A black father playing with his son. Unintentionally facilitating the invisibility of black fathers. The second issue is that in American culture black men need no assistance being made invisible. As referenced in the myth of the missing black father, black fathers are rarely depicted as deeply embedded within the family systems they help create. The greater their invisibility as fathers, the more problematic the reality for black families and the black community. The reality is that, relative to other ethnic groups, a disproportionately larger percentage of African American children, 69% according to recent Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, data, are raised in single-parent homes that are largely run by black women. That is a fact. What is not a fact is that means absent fathers as larger culture, such as the 2013 Don Lemon's initial CNN commentary, would have people believe. We cannot ignore the fact that some fathers are not present based on their own decisions, they simply may decide to not be involved during seasons or lifetimes. However, there are many fathers making a contribution to varying degrees. In fact, additional research from the CDC and other sources supports that black fathers are just as present, if not more present, than fathers from other racial backgrounds. While we should in no way submit to the notion that something is better than nothing, we can give voice and life to that something. In doing so, perhaps in time, what we focus on can grow. As indicated by the CDC data, a higher percentage of black women are more likely to be classified as single parents. Essentially, it would seem that if there is not a romantic, married or cohabitating relationship, parents are single or solo in the parenting journey. Since the actual term single means only one, the idea perpetuated by this language leads to damaging assumptions that biological fathers are 100% missing from the parenting process. In this black and white dichotomy, there is little room for the range of kinship resources that can contribute to child rearing, including care providers such as grandparents, family friends, aunts, and uncles. There may be even less room for the spectrum of ways, emotional, economic, logistical, spiritual, that fathers can contribute. This lack of attention to the range of ways in which parenting occurs, and various factors that impact the parenting process, may contribute to why 66% of Americans surveyed in the Pew study believe that single women having children is bad for society.
Let me stop right there. Let me stop right there. Um, you know, we've talked about, again, fatherlessness in the black community. And the author of this particular article, which I've converted into a video, um, is pointing that out, that while statistically a majority of black men have fathered children and are not in their lives, but there are other resources within the family dynamic, such as grandfathers, uncles, neighbors, pastors, a myriad of people that may be available to try to fill in the gap. That's good, but that should not be considered the cure all, or that should not be the the accepted backup. Okay, what we need to do is have our men understand the importance of them being in the family unit, not on occasion, not just during holidays, not on the weekends, but 24/7, because the child needs to understand in its entirety the role of the father, because at someday, God willing, they will become a father. And there are too many of us running around here making babies who have no background in raising a child and managing a family. And so, where did they get it from? You can't fully comprehend when you're a child, a male child in a household, and the pastor comes by once a week, maybe once a month, to drop in on his parishioner to see how they're going, how things are going for them, and him trying to I'm just assuming it's a male, whole another conversation. Okay, um, coming in and trying to fill some of the gap, getting the child to trust them, this occasional, not my father, coming in and being fatherly. In the traditional relationship, just let's say with between the mother and her father or her brother or her neighbor or her cousin, another male figure coming in, the child has to learn to trust this person. They're coming by because of what? Many different reasons they may come by. They may not even come by. The child may only see them when they go to the grocery store with their mother. And the owner of the store, clerk or whatever, is a guy, and he's very nice to him, gives him a lollipop or whatever, smiles and, that kind of thing. That's not fatherly. That's not a fatherly relationship. That's just a nice guy, you know, and he may be nice for many different reasons. We all know what that means. But back to the point, you know, we have to understand as a community that other communities look at us and see the results of what we do and make a decision on how they should interact with us. When you have your son growing up without a father, and he, let's say, becomes a teenager or whatever, 16, 17, 18 years old or whatever, and he wants to start dating, and he sees a young lady that he's interested in, maybe of a different race or a different culture within the same race, and he goes and starts to start a relationship with her, and he really doesn't understand the dynamic of being a man in this. All he knows is his hormones are raging, and hers are raging, and he doesn't think about the consequences of his actions. And then that young lady's father, brother, uncle, whatever, comes into play and looks at her and says, well, why are you treating my this way? And the kid, the guy, like, what do you mean? Why? I'm doing the right thing. I'm being nice. No, you're not being nice to her. You see? And we can go through that whole conversation, all the different things that may be happening that the young lady would tolerate because she's looking at a different picture here, a different outcome she's thinking is going to happen. But the guy that she's entertaining, he got no clue as to how to handle you. He's running based on what his boys click, what his manhood wishes are dictating. There's no understanding. It comes down, love, important part of this whole process. Most people don't really understand love until they've been with someone for some time. They understand lust, yeah, and then they understand I like you, you know. Then they understand, well, I really like you, I like to be around you, and I've been around you for a period of time to know that it's not just a fad. It is something that's important to my day to have connected with you. Then we get to the point of love. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to see anybody hurt you. I don't want anything to happen that would hurt you. I will do anything for you type of love. If they can demonstrate that, then the woman can understand, well, he really cares for me. This is not just a moment in time type thing. And so if he cares for me, if at some point we have a child, I already know how he's going to respond, or have a good understanding of how I just assume he will respond. Okay? Because it's been tried and tested. A lot of people don't grasp the concept of treat others the way you would want to be treated. Because if they've been treated poorly for a portion of their lives, when it comes down to treating other people, treating them poorly is of nothing unusual. This is how it is. I get mad at you, I cuss you out. I get mad at you, I throw you out. I get mad at you, I hit you. I get mad at you, I leave you. And I don't care what happens to you while I'm gone. That's not love. But that's a part of that experience, that baggage that they're bringing to the table that you don't know anything about. You're just assuming that that's not baggage that he carries or she carries. That's something that happens on TV. Let me finish the video here, and we're going to get into some facts, so you'll be able to have some kind of perspective, a deeper perspective on this topic.
A solution: spectrums versus categories. We do not help ourselves by using categorical defaults. As Black women, we have the right, the ability, and the responsibility to shape the narrative that will become our children's story, which ultimately extends to our community's story. If the term single accurately reflects a woman's parenting experience, then she should use it. However, let us not use the term simply because it is the only one available to us. If the goal is to determine a mother's marital status, the terms married and unmarried are sufficient and more specific. The reality is that Black parents are engaged in parenting practices in ways that may be ignored in the single Black mother narrative. If we look across social class, there is research that many Black women are actually sharing parenting responsibilities in a range of ways with their baby daddy. However, there is a gap in our empirical knowledge here, given that most research involving Black parents focuses on younger or lower social class families in which co-parenting may be limited for a variety of reasons. Insights from Heather Hobson, a Black single mother, adds additional perspective. I think people think that because you're single it means you're raising children without fathers in their lives, and that's not often the case. More and more families are opting to co-parent. While co-parenting can be applied to a range of family structures, a large portion of the research links to marital, divorced, or kinship co-parenting relationships and is less about co-parenting among biological, unmarried/never married parents. When literature about Black women parenting references single, the process of co-parenting between biological parents is not adequately representative across age and economic class. We can acknowledge that kinship care is a solid core value and resource among many families, while also highlighting the diverse ways in which Black co-parenting occurs. We can give life to a myriad of possibilities. Black women and the power of our tongue. Every story is different, and there are some painfully complex stories out there that bind Black mothers and fathers together. This essay is not intended to minimize those complexities, romanticize the Black parenting experience, or impose a narrative of what it means to be parenting alone. Instead, this essay is a call to recognize, evaluate and, as applicable, reject the internalization of a narrative that has been placed upon Black families versus one created by Black families. Let us create space to breathe life into the things that deserve the chance to live. As such, Black women are in a key position to challenge themselves to define their parenting experience in a dimensional versus categorical way. This can occur from a position of power and authenticity. As women, we shape much of a family's narrative. In doing so, we model for all of our children, particularly our girls, the use of a particular power that they will need in this world that aims to dim their light and tell them their future. Thanks for watching.
Okay, we're back. Now, a couple of points I'd like to make about what was just said. First off, the co-parenting thing. The co-parenting thing is something that man has come up with as far as just allying, what they've decided they want to do. And the Bible tells us, it doesn't say anything about having a child and leaving that child without a parent. It doesn't talk about that because it's not something that's an acceptable behavior. You don't have an option in God's mind on leaving the gift that He's given you. There's no option in that. Okay? If you think it's going to work out well for you, let me know how it works out. Nothing in the Bible tells us that, you can just walk away from the child and they'll be fine. I mean, they'll probably be fine because of God. I mean, He's going to be happy with what you did. Co-parenting is something that, I can't really tolerate your mother, or she hates me, however you want to put it. The point is, you should have thought about that before you made the baby. That you can't tolerate her. You're not, what she does, what she thinks or whatever is unacceptable to you. Or you don't have the skill set to overcome those things that may not be what pleases you. I'm not talking about controlling. Man, sometimes just reason with people. Sometimes you have to understand. You have to be empathetic, sympathetic, because you want them to do what? Be the same to you. Some time in my life, my back was bothering me badly. Sometimes I couldn't even go to work. So, probably because I'd go out and play basketball and twist it, and not warm up before I played, and then I have a problem, and so I come home and I in my own head understand what it is I can and cannot do because of the pain of having my back. But when that shoe was on your partner's foot, do you really understand what they're going through? Now, while I could walk around my back, kind of take a few minutes to stand up, take me a minute or two to stand up and straighten up and then walk, I knew this and I could, manage it, meaning that you might not know that I'm having a problem with my back because I've figured out how to handle it. But then when it's somebody else's back and they're doing the same thing, managing it so no one understands or sees that they're having a problem, can you comprehend in your head that their back is bothering them and how bad it is because they're not really getting everything done that they used to get done or that you think they should get done during the course of the day? So the co-parenting thing is I'm here for my children, and I want you to be here for our children. And we need to work together to help them become better parents than we were. Okay? Just in case you didn't get the book to read out what it is to be a parent. Not all of us has read the book and understand what it is to be a parent. Okay? So let me leave that there and go on to my commentary here. The following statements ended the above article. Our challenge is to be mindful and intentional in the use of our words so that we can bring truth to life, strengthen understandings of the Black family, and enhance opportunities for our children to thrive. Let's go over some of the facts in this situation. Single mothers have grown so common in America today that 80% of single parent families are headed by single mothers. Nearly a third live in poverty. Yeah. Once largely limited to poor women and minorities, single motherhood is now becoming a new norm. This prevalence is due in part to the growing trend of children born outside of marriage, a societal trend that was virtually unheard of decades ago. The time when they used to have the shows like Ozzie and Harriet and My Three Sons and Father Knows Best, back then, all that kind of stuff. Then they started with the Good Times, which was interesting because it talked about a family in poverty and the challenges they faced as they lived in the projects. Okay. But it never got to the point of, hey, we've overcome that. It just left society with that image that we as Black people live in the projects and this is life for us. But Ozzie and Harriet were white folk. My Three Sons, white folks. Father Knows Best, white folks. Then finally, somebody came along with Cosby and Huxtables, and the wife's a professional and the husband's a professional, and they're trying to raise children in this world. And most of the time, it gets to the edge of reality, and then it falls back because their thought processes are different when you're educated and you're a professional. Okay. But the relationship between the mother and the father was always good. Now, More facts. According to the 2021 U.S. Census Bureau, out of about 11 million single parent families with children under the age of 18, nearly 80% were headed by single mothers. Of all single parent families in the U.S., single mothers make up the majority. About 4 out of 10 children were born to unwed mothers. Nearly two-thirds were born to mothers under the age of 30. Today, 1 in 6 children under the age of 18, a total of about 12.7 million, are being raised without a father. This is unacceptable. It is unacceptable, and there's no reason for us to continue to accept that behavior from our own children. Yeah, and or ourselves as adults. You know, like I said, you get what you accept. As long as you keep accepting, that's what you get. You know, and say, oh, well, they're grown now, and they're out there, and making babies here and there, whatever. What does that mean? You got nothing to say. You have nothing to say because they're grown. Well, you need to say something to them, and you need to talk about yourself too, especially from the perspective of, I raised you better than this. Didn't you see what I went through? What makes you think that you're entitled to just, that's I don't like her. And why'd you lay down with her? Oh, well, yeah, that seems to be an acceptable response, and there's no consequence. And so they walk away and don't want to pay child support, don't want to be in the child's life. Okay, and what if you got up as their parent and went to the woman who had the child and told her, well, he's working over here off the books. Child support. Consequence. Let me go on. Around half, 52.3% of single mothers have never married. Almost a third, 29.3%, are divorced. 18.4% are either separated or widowed. Half have one child, 30% have two, and about two-thirds are white, one-third is black. At any one time, about two-thirds of single mothers are working outside of the home. Two-thirds. A slightly greater share than the share of married mothers who are also working outside the home. However, only half were employed full-time all year long. A quarter, 25.9%, were jobless the entire year. Among those who are laid off or looking for work, less than a quarter, 22.4%, received unemployment benefits. If a single mother is able to work, her earning power still lags significantly compared with men's, about 82 cents to a dollar for the same job, leaving a wage gap of 18% on the dollar. 18 cents, excuse me. The wage disparities are even greater for women of color. African American women earn only 64%, while Hispanic and Latinos fare worse, being paid less than 56 cents on the dollar. Single mothers can earn income that place them well below married mothers on the income ladder. The gap between the two groups is significantly large. The median income for families led by a single mother in 2020 was about $49,000, well below the $101,000 median for married couples. Out of more than 10 million low income working families with children, 39% were headed by single working mothers, or about 4.1 million. The proportion is much higher among African Americans, 65% compared with whites at 36%. Only one third of single mothers received any child support. And the average amount these mothers received was only about $286 a month. You can't pay rent living in the park for $286 a month on average. I'm going to stop with the statistics right there and get to what I want to say as far as my final thoughts, because we're going to have to come back to this topic a few more times and get some perspective. Excuse me. So we can start a dialogue throughout the community. I mean, there are a lot of women sitting around now at home in the family group where you have a mother, a grandmother, 2 or 3 daughters, and each one of them having 2 or 3 kids, and no man. Oh yeah, they found a man to make them kids, but that man is no longer with them, or not with them, or wasn't going to be with them. Okay, so we need to talk about that. That's unacceptable behavior, not only for the man, because you can't make a baby, a man can't make a baby. And if you've got daughters and they don't have enough information or support to understand that you could get pregnant messing with men, men will lie. Okay? That doesn't mean that you can't find the right man. That doesn't mean you can't find a good man. But the journey to finding the right man or a good man, you need to protect yourself. I mean, if you're too lazy to protect yourself, then you get what you deserve. But that's what you deserve. The child does not deserve to not have a mother and a father in their life. And I'm not talking about the part-time or the co-parenting, just a lie that people come up with. Oh, he's not a good provider. You knew that when you met him. You buying his lunch. You buying the liquor for him. You buying his cigarettes. You buying his weed. And you think he's going to be able to support you and or a child? You lost your mind. But anyway, let me close this out. The final thoughts. It is noteworthy that informing women, particularly single black women, of the social narrative and labeling of their reality is unbalanced with respect to the reality they are personally experiencing. However, this discussion would be of no value if the root impact of the social narrative continued to be overlooked and undervalued as we dialogue about society's narratives and labels. So please note that the impact of single parenting efforts is far more devastating to the survival of the African American race here in the U.S. than the need to clarify the definition of single versus solo parenting, which was the basis of the article we just went through. Our children are being raised under less than acceptable circumstances, and those circumstances fail to set the stage for their success as parents and further equipping the generations to come in the importance and meaning of parenting. Some may see my comments as off the rail, but there will be no rail if we as a people don't stop spending our energy on unproductive engagements and focus on the meanings of what is important. And until that is the primary focus, all else is counterproductive and a waste of time. Take a hard look at what's happened in your life. Then look at what could happen in your child's life, whether they're infants, toddlers, young men, women, teenagers, or young adults. Take a look at what's happening with them. And yeah, be prepared to have a conversation with them. I mean, listen, we can only do what we can do. I can't make you do anything. You know, I can explain to you the consequences of it. I can help you to try to understand the impact of some of the decisions that you see other people make so that you might avoid some of the heartaches down the line. But if I don't say anything, therein lies, that's on me. You see, that's on me because I didn't say anything. And you know, oh yeah, we can have a whole conversation about, well, do as I say, not as I do. You need to have a conversation with yourself on that. Because if you're telling your kids to do something that you don't do, trust me, it's falling on deaf ears, what you're saying. They ain't hearing you because they ain't feeling you. Anyway, stay woke. That's the phrase for this season. Stay woke. Keep your eyes open. Think, talk, learn. Until next time, I'll see you next time, God willing, and the creek don't rise. But if it does rise, I'm going to keep swimming.